Developed by Technos Japan back in 1987, the original Double Dragon took the arcade scene by storm, and it led to an onslaught of beat-em-up arcade games attempting to emulate its success. Double Dragon was in fact so popular that it spawned a movie, not a very good one, but it did have that dude from Iron Chef in it, a cartoon series, also not very good, and was eventually ported to home consoles like the NES and Game Boy. Many sequels would follow, and if you're interested in learning more about the franchise, shameless plug, check out our new retro channel, I Dream of Retro Games, where we just released a lovely history of the franchise. Link in the description below. But today we're here to talk about the latest entry in this classic series, Double Dragon Gaiden, Rise of the Dragons. Bimmy and Jimmy, I mean Billy and Jimmy Lee, are back, and this time they've brought plenty of help. It's the year 1990X, and in a world that's been decimated by nuclear war, the Lee brothers and friends set out to New York City, where they attempt to clean up the streets by taking down 4 of the biggest, nastiest gangs around. The story's told through classic-looking pixel art cutscenes that call back to the series' roots, but in terms of narrative, that's mostly all there is to it, outside of one major twist that I absolutely will not be spoiling here. It's an arcade brawler, so I wasn't exactly expecting deep lore, and you shouldn't be either, but the premise serves the purpose. Rise of the Dragons can be played in either single-player or local co-op. There is no online play as of now outside of the Steam version, which features remote play together. Players will select 2 characters each, as this version of Double Dragon utilizes a tag team feature. Think of it like Marvel vs. Capcom, but slap that into a brawler. Players are easily able to swap between characters, however this will require a full special meter earned by beating on baddies. Your injured characters can slowly regain health while off on the sidelines, and honestly, I really like this tag feature. It adds a bit of strategy to the game that I never would have thought I wanted. Plus, each character plays different enough from one another where it helps to make things feel fresh. Another curveball here is the ability to select between missions versus going in a set order of levels. With 4 gangs to take down, you guessed it, there are 4 main worlds to battle through, each hosted by a gang leader. The Killer Fortress, as one example, puts you on the mean streets of New York City, similar to something you would see out of a classic Double Dragon game, while the Okada clan headquarters has you battling through fancy red carpeted areas. Each setting feels pretty unique from the last and hosts its own set of obstacles, though you might be asking yourself, only 4 worlds? Oh no. Well, fear not, because again, this version of Double Dragon does things differently. You see, the first mission you select is going to be a bit of a softball where you'll get through it quite easily, a one-and-done type situation. However, the next world you select, you'll find it goes on a bit longer with additional zones to be explored. This not only adds more challenge, but it adds different areas to see, and really, different ways to play the game, which helps make each run feel more unique from the last. You can select missions in a variety of different orders, but you may find that some worlds are more difficult to tackle or that you don't like a specific boss, so it's best to do that mission first. It's really up to you how you want to approach things, but if you want to see every area of the game, you'll need to try out all sorts of different combinations. I'm not sure I preferred this to simply having 10 to 12 structured levels that I brawl through, but I can absolutely respect it. Levels are also fairly linear, but from time to time there are multiple paths to take, with many of them leading to additional cash. Missions also feature enemies with specific bounties worth more cash, along with bonus objectives, which leads me to the next and perhaps biggest change in Double Dragon Gaiden Rise of the Dragons, the token system. As you'll play, you'll earn all that cash by busting barrels, baddies, and doing the aforementioned bounties and side objectives, and when your game ends, any cash you've collected will be turned into tokens. These tokens can then be spent to unlock new characters and some other fun goodies. Where things get interesting is, at the end of each area within a mission, players can spend cash to upgrade their characters as well. These upgrades range from giving you more health to even buying a small amount of tokens for yourself just to be safe so that you have some. The upgrades are going to be important if you want to survive till the very end of the game, but so is having tokens, because of course you want to unlock more awesome characters and other fun stuff, or depending on your settings, they're also used as a continue. It's honestly a lot of fun. It sounds complicated, but it's really not that complicated. It does incentivize players to do multiple runs time and time again. Basically, to put it in simple terms, tokens are great for unlocking things, and cash is great for upgrading your character and hopefully completing the game, and it's up to you how you balance these things. It is ultimately exciting to unlock things in-game without having to use real money like so many games try to pull today, so while I was apprehensive at first, I ultimately grew to enjoy earning and using the tokens. While the challenge does get steep the further you get into a run, it's nice that Gaiden features a good set of accessibility options as well. You can change what it might cost for you to continue, cost to revive, which is also paid for in cash by the way, and a few other options like how aggressive your enemies will be towards you. So the game is customizable. Alright, we've talked a lot about what's different and new in this version of Double Dragon, but as for the core gameplay itself, Rise of the Dragons feels pretty good, though maybe not as snappy as, say, Shredder's Revenge, but honestly, that game is a modern-day classic and one of my favorite brawlers ever now, so maybe that's not a fair comparison. But, on its own terms, Double Dragon Gaiden feels solid as far as brawlers go. You run with the R1 button if playing on PlayStation like I was, tagging's done with L1, and then you of course have your buttons for attacking, special attack, jumping, and actions, like picking up weapons or grabbing enemies, which you can totally whiff on by the way, so be careful. Not every character can perform these grabs, others will do rolls as one example, good for getting out of the way of danger, but I think ultimately, it feels alright. I think I would have preferred a double tap for running myself, and the few moments where you need to do some platforming are predictably not that great, but overall, the game feels just fine to play. You also have a special meter, which I touched on earlier for tagging, but this meter also works to perform special attacks. Different moves are going to use different amounts of your specials, so it's something to keep your eye on, but it honestly fills up pretty fast and will slowly regenerate on its own. But I think what I liked most about the gameplay was the different characters and the tagging. There is a move list that shows off some of the unique abilities each character has, and you can tell a lot of love and care went into making everyone feel fresh and unique. There wasn't a character I didn't enjoy playing as, but of course, you'll always have your favorites. Now that said, as much as I loved playing as some of these characters and bosses, I didn't like fighting all of the bosses. Honestly, I found a few of them a little bit poorly designed and downright cheap. I swear, we gotta do something about annoying flying enemies and bosses and brawlers. So yeah, as you've probably picked up on, not everything is perfect in this game, but that said, there's a lot of smart design here as well. For example, grabbing a health restorative like a hot dog isn't always in vain should you have full life. The item will instead be converted into cash, which you can then use. That's a really nice touch. As far as the visuals go, I felt maybe a little mixed on the art style chosen. I love pixel art, as you know, and by no means does this game look bad, but something just felt a little off that I couldn't quite put my finger on. I think the game is a little on the cute side, which works well for some characters, but maybe not others. The Lee brothers in particular seemed a bit off to me, but nitpicking aside, the animations are really quite well done, the colors are nice, and environments are fairly well detailed. Everything on screen is well presented, but yeah, I'm a bit conflicted. Perhaps the proportions felt a bit off and I just wasn't digging the whole big head thing. But that said, the soundtrack really does slap here with some excellent remixes of some of your favorite Double Dragon tunes. These versions sound rich with synths and electronic drums, accompanied by great crunchy sound effects and even voices from characters, which honestly aren't all that repetitive and annoying. They give off a classic arcade vibe. I mean, they're repetitive, but not in the annoying way. Each punch gives off some lovely bass that all sounds a bit compressed, but in that nice old-school arcade tone that I so love. It's good stuff. Double Dragon Gaiden Rise of the Dragons is a game that successfully brings the franchise into modern times. While classic fans of the series may be divided on the new roguelite elements and token system, the tagging is undeniably fun, and I personally love the different ways you could run through the game using different character combinations. While leaderboards are a nice touch, it would have been nice to have some online features as well. And heck, you already got 4 players involved, why not make this a 4-player game where someone you tag in could take control? I also feel like I would have preferred the classic art which is shown in the game's loading screens versus this new style the developers settled on. But either way, spending tokens to unlock some of my favorite characters was a blast, the soundtrack's excellent, and sure, it wasn't perfect, but in the end, Double Dragon is back and it's actually pretty dang good. I'd say that's worth celebrating.